The entire state of California is now under a lockdown order. 40 million people ordered to shelter in place in one of the most drastic actions we have seen yet. The State Department is ordering or advising all Americans abroad to return home immediately or prepare to stay where you are indefinitely. The crisis is getting bad, man. Unemployment insurance claims are spiking to an absurd degree. In California, Governor Newsom said typically they get around 2,000 claims in a day. Now they're receiving 80,000 claims. How could the system handle this? It wasn't designed to. My fear is that it can't and it'll collapse. And what happens when people feel like they have no opportunity to get food? They're in dense populated areas. The worst is yet to come, man. You know, I said before, and many others, that we are on track to be like Italy. And now we are basically like Italy. It's just one state so far. But like Italy, they first locked down their northern region and eventually the entire country. Now, admittedly, Italy is much smaller than the US. But California is first, and I'm willing to bet the rest will follow. In New York, already there's been talk of a lockdown. Governor Cuomo has said, no, stop, get real, we can't do this. But I'm willing to bet it'll happen because we're already seeing people call for more. The NIH chief says people would find the best response to coronavirus too drastic. Will they? Because we also have this opinion piece by Gene Marks for The Hill. Shut us down already, Mr. President. We have got in Texas a declaration of a public health disaster. Wait till, listen, you know, I know there's going to be a lot of people who are saying I'm fear-mongering or panicking. I just literally do not care at this point. If you want to go get your daily dose of lies and comfort, go turn on the mainstream media. I'm going to show you the stories that are actually coming out, and I'm going to talk about the potential implications. But I will always stress the worst thing you can do is panic. That will not help you. Sit down, contemplate your options, think about what the best thing to do is, and admittedly, look, I'm still here. Why? I think the best thing to do is to, for the most part, shelter in place. I don't know how bad this will get. I don't know what government's reactions will be. I don't know what the average person's reaction will be. But Texas is straight up saying that if you're under investigation for having the coronavirus, they will involuntarily quarantine you. That's the level we're getting at. We are going to go into a hard lockdown. We are going to see a rise in full-on government authority. And I don't know what to expect, but there definitely is some pushback between liberty-minded people and government. These are trying times. Let's read this story from Fox 26, and I'll show you some other stories and where I think we're going to end up. Fox 26 says, the state of California is about to go under a shelter-in-place order announced on Thursday by Governor Gavin Newsom. The governor calls the situation fluid and says the order is necessary now because of new projections that show how many people might get infected. He calls this an open-ended order and says he will not put a time frame on how long it could last. He says the next 8 weeks are critical for controlling the spread of the virus. The governor says more than half of all Californians could eventually be infected with coronavirus. He says 56% of people living in the state will get it, which could be more than 20 million people. The shelter-in-place rules will be similar to those already effective in Fresno, the Bay Area, and other California counties and cities. Governor Gavin Newsom made the announcement around 6:45 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th. He says a list of exempt and non-exempt businesses will be released soon. In Fresno, businesses such as bars, salons, car dealers, and other businesses where large groups can gather or where people must be in close proximity to each other are under a shutdown order. Fresno has also ordered that there will be no public gatherings larger than 10 people outside of private family homes. People who work for non-essential businesses are asked to stay at home and get out only for tasks such as grocery shopping and medical visits. So that's the important factor here. You can leave. You're just, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to stop you? I have no idea. We're not facing the severity of how China handled it. This is a shelter-in-place order. The problem is young people have been completely ignoring it because, well, they're morons. Not everybody, okay, fine, I get it. But boy, are some of these people dumb. And in response to this, the government is reacting rather heavy-handedly. with a heavy hand. He says he's worried there won't be enough hospital beds for all of the victims if nothing is done right now. He says that one of the reasons he's calling for the new rules. If California acts strongly right now, he feels the state can keep the number of victims under the number of hospital beds. He said, let's bend the curve together. The governor announced that the state has purchased a hospital in Northern California and will soon announce a second such purchase, this one in Southern California. He also says the state is trying to arrange dorm rooms and colleges and hotel rooms to help house victims if needed. He says the state will overly focus on those over 65 and those with compromised immune systems. The governor said he has spoken with President Trump and Vice President Pence today about his plan. He said he thanked them for the surgical gloves, masks, and other materials that was delivered to the state due to federal efforts. He says it's time to tell Californians some tough things that he is telling his family, one of which is that students won't get back to school during the remainder of this school year. The governor says the state is working with private businesses to try to get additional protective gear for health workers and others. They say this is a developing story. We'll see what happens. Internationally, the State Department tells Americans do not travel abroad, come home if overseas. I have friends who are overseas, and some of them can't even come home because other countries have already shut down their borders. And that's the reality of the people who waited too long. And I am damn frustrated with the media and the gloating morons on Twitter who gloat about how smart they are. And here we are. The media downplayed everything early on. The World Health Organization pushed out Chinese propaganda that the virus was under control and that there was no human-to-human transmission. And now look where we are. The liars, the grifters, whatever you want to call them, the nasty people who would tell you not to protect yourself because they want to look smart. That's what they do. These people on YouTube love to grab whatever video from whoever they can. Typically, you'll find smaller YouTube channels that have nothing going for them other than like smack talking other YouTubers. It's disgusting. And this is what they do. They say, look at these people who are concerned about the global pandemic. What idiots and morons, grifters, trying to sell blah, blah, blah. You know what, man? That's evil. These narcissistic, arrogant people who told all of you not to take action to protect yourself. I can only imagine that there's a lot of people in California right now freaking out. USA Today reports the State Department told USA Today, the State Department told Americans not to travel abroad at all. The strongest U.S. alert yet as the novel coronavirus continued its steady march across the globe. The department on Thursday issued a level 4 advisory. Do not travel. In countries where commercial departure options remain available, U.S. citizens who live in the United States should arrange for immediate return to the U.S. unless they are prepared to remain abroad for an indefinite period. U.S. citizens who live abroad should avoid all international travel. If you are an American and you are in a foreign country, get back home now. While you may find hospitality will extend quite far, at a certain point, these countries are going to say, I don't know you. Sorry. You will be last in line for care in the event of a real crisis. Get back home now. I know a lot of people who can't. The advisory came as the number of cases have multiplied, more than 11,000 in the U.S. out of 236,000 worldwide. And the number's up. All right. So this story is from yesterday. The number's up. The advisory is not a mandate. Americans can still leave the U.S., but they do so at their own risk. Hundreds of Americans have been stranded overseas amid a global freeze on international travel and mass quarantines sparked by the coronavirus pandemic. Besieged by pleas for help, the State Department and its embassies around the world have offered little to no assistance, these stranded travelers say. I can't help but feel we are abandoned. So that's Chris Pierce, who was stuck in the Philippines with his wife and 9-year-old son. And you're not coming back, man. If you're in a country where you can get out, you need to. Now I want to show you something I find to be one of the most alarming things. It's a sign of things to come. Don't panic. Please remain calm. I'm still at my house. I'm still doing normal stuff. I don't know what to expect. I really don't. But hey, we're here. We're in the storm. This is from the state of Texas. Declaration of a public health disaster in the state of Texas, March 19th. And they say, people who are known to have or are under investigation or monitoring for COVID-19 should adhere to the direction provided to them by duly authorized persons, including public health officials. Failure to abide by such direction may result in involuntary quarantine or isolation for the purposes of preventing further community spread of COVID-19. They add, people who are ill, especially those with symptoms consistent with flu or COVID-19, should isolate themselves at home until they recover. Such persons should only present for medical evaluation and treatment if their symptoms are such that they cannot continue to be cared for in their home. And when seeking medical care, should call their doctor or healthcare facility before arriving to allow them to prepare. They say, if you're being monitored for having COVID-19, if they suspect you might, they will involuntarily quarantine you. Now that's what China was doing. This is just Texas. I do not believe we are going to see the severity, in the United States of what we saw in China. But at least it will be close to it. Having someone come to your home and say, well, you seem like you may be sick, and now you are being involuntarily quarantined. The NIH chief says people would find the best response to coronavirus too drastic. When asked if the U.S. would be on total lockdown in an effort to stem the spread of COVID-19, Collins replied, it's so hard to answer that, but what I would say is what Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, has said a few times in recent days, and that is that the approach we should be taking right now is one that most people would find to be too drastic because otherwise it is not drastic enough. Collins also said that Americans should not expect a viable vaccine for the virus anytime soon, despite the fact that scientists all over the world have been scrambling to develop one. We are flat out on this, but everyone needs to recognize that even flat out for a vaccine means we're a year to a year and a half away. And that would be breaking the record by a factor of 3 or so, given how long it usually takes to get something fully ready to be distributed to the public. Collins noted that the testing has begun, but there are still many more hurdles to clear in the vaccine process. Additionally, the NIH head said that it remains to be seen if the U.S. can avoid a situation similar to the one in Italy, where more than 3,400 people have died from the virus. Let's be clear. There's going to be a very rough road in the weeks and months ahead of us. If we did everything right today, you would still see the numbers going up over the next 2 weeks because of what's out there already. We can't change that. But what we might be able to do is change what's going to happen 3 or 4 weeks from now. That's our challenge, he added. Some people are calling for a hard lockdown already. Billionaire hedge fund guy, I think, Bill Ackman. I don't know a lot about him, but that's what I read. He's a hedge fund guy. He called on the president to just lock everything down, boom, like that. The problem is people would panic. How you get through this, I honestly don't know, but a slow roll of the lockdown followed by a harder lockdown, get people prepared, and then lock it down. And a couple weeks go by. Hopefully that works. Over in Italy, they've been under lockdown, and the amount of cases in Italy has still been going up, and the amount of death has been going up. Over 500 died in a single day. Yet still, I went out for essentials the other day. I'm taking, various precautions. You'll notice that in many of my videos, I'm touching my face, but you're not supposed to touch your face when you go out. If you're home, you're washing your hands, don't worry about it. And sure enough, the people at the stores, they're wearing gloves, they're taking precautions, but the conversations I heard, they're just shrugging it off, saying it's no big deal. Maybe 500 people in a single day is not that big of a number to them. Over at the Hill, this is what we see. In a totalitarian society like China, they say it was possible to lock down everything. For weeks, no one was allowed in and out of the city except for deliveries. People were confined to their homes. After making many awful mistakes, the Chinese government pivoted, quarantined the region, and then enforced these rules with a heavy hand. You can argue with their tactics, but you can't argue with their results. It worked, which is why I say to President Trump, shut us down, sir. Please just shut us down. I mean the whole country, not just New York or San Francisco, but Louisville, Denver, Harrisburg, Clearwater, and Madison, every small town. Whether there is a case or not, I'm talking martial law. Do it. You said you're now a wartime president, so act like one. No! This kind of rhetoric is terrifying, but it's coming. I wouldn't be surprised if it's coming. You're already seeing now pundits in the media say, do it, martial law. That would be a serious, serious mistake. We are not China. We are a liberty-minded country, and we are armed to the teeth. The last thing we should be doing is curtailing civil liberties, which is already starting to happen. When Donald Trump invoked the Defense Production Act, which gives him the power to force manufacturing of certain goods, many companies said, we got your back. We don't need to show up with guns drawn and say we're locking you in your homes. We don't need to show up with a group of armed thugs saying make the product or else. In this country, when Trump invokes this act, we already saw many companies saying we will do what must be done. Just let us know what you need. We need to come together on this one. But if you go out with a heavy hand and martial law, don't be surprised if you cause the total collapse to happen faster. People won't stand for it. You already got people who just don't believe it's real. What do you think is going to happen when you show up with stormtroopers saying we don't care what you think? That is the wrong way to deal with this. He says, this guy is Gene Marks. He says, they don't explain who he is, but he goes on to say all businesses should be closed except the essential ones. And that list should be carefully constructed. No travel, no planes, no cars, no movement. We stay in our homes and leave only to get food, go to the doctor, or walk our dogs. Scientists have determined with confidence, from the hundreds of thousands of cases reported so far, that the recommended period of self-isolation should be 14 days to let the virus run its course. But we're Americans, and we always do more. So I say we force isolate for an extra week, maybe a total of 21 days, just to be sure. We also know that when people blatantly violate this rule, as the Italians have been doing over their 10 days of confinement, then the effects are marginalized. So it must be enforced heavily with fines and jail time. The military should be patrolling the streets. The National Guard should be called out. Everyone, and I mean everyone, hunkers down. Big mistake. Big mistake. Do not listen to this stuff. Someone sent me a video, a friend of mine, saying that it's a friend of a friend in Chicago in the suburbs sent them. We see this all the time. It's mobilization. I was sent a video of what looks like a bunch of military vehicles on trains moving at a high rate of speed in the Chicago suburbs. I trust my friend. I mean, it's the best I can say. I was told it was taken directly from their friend. So here we have hearsay. It's friend of a friend claiming it's their video. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm also not shocked by it. The National Guard is mobilizing. It's not a big deal. The reason I bring this up is that not that it's true because I haven't verified it, but that people are already feeling like this is underway. And what do you think a liberty-minded American is going to say? Well, you do have a lot of Americans who recognize the importance of working together and protecting our country. But there are a lot of people who distrust the government and will defy the government orders. That's why authoritarianism is always a bad idea. Oh, you can get your short-term gains, send out your jackboot thugs to lock people in their homes. But the long-term results would be disastrous. This, to me, is terrifying rhetoric. And it worries me because, I mean, this kind of stuff is going to spread. It's got 4,770 shares. I don't know why, but I think it's a mistake. He ends his piece by saying, please, Mr. President, shut us down already, the whole country. We can take it. We're behind you because we know that the long-term economic impact, particularly on the country's 30 million small businesses, will be much, much less severe than if we deal with this problem haphazardly, as we're already doing now. It's not the virus that's killing us. It's the prolonged uncertainty. They say he's the founder of the Marks Group, a small business consulting firm, and he frequently appears on CNBC, Fox Business, and MSNBC. It won't work. It will be a disaster. But I'll leave you with this. The coronavirus has pushed unemployment claims to 80,000 in a single day. I'm worried because I don't think the system's going to handle that. And what happens when a large group of people find they're not getting any benefits? Hey, you paid into this system. You pay your taxes for this. But guess what? Too many people have tried to get it at once. And that means not everyone can. People are going to get mad. And people are going to get hungry. We've already seen some low-level looting and rioting in Europe. Medical supplies and a liquor store. Not the end of the world yet. But with these calls for martial law, that I find worrying. Over in PA, we have something similar. They're seeing a major spike as well. Let me see if I can... This is basically a story about Pennsylvania. And here we go. The Department of Labor and Industry said unemployment compensation claims were 50,000 on Monday, and that Tuesday's filings were on course to exceed that. In the entire first week of March, they received barely 12,000 claims in one day. One day, 4 or 5 times that number. You know what, man? Things are getting scary, I guess. Some people might say, you know, I'm fear-mongering or whatever. I just don't care. You can go ahead and turn on your mainstream media where they praise China and they talk about how everything's going to be fine. Go ahead and do it. Whatever, man. I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel and what I'm thinking. And there's a conundrum when it comes to the media because people have said to me, even if it's true, it's my responsibility to stop people from freaking all that stuff. It's like, yeah, I understand that. Freaking out is the worst thing you can do. It will lower your chance of survival. So if you freak out, okay, then you're actually endangering yourself. But to lie, because the ends justify the means, or to act like I'm somehow not supposed to talk about what I think is patently absurd. These reports, this rhetoric, it's all over the news, man. So what? You let these media companies say all this nonsensical, insane stuff and just do whatever they want? Nah. I don't know what to expect, but I hope you all have taken precautions, and I hope you all remain calm. I'll see you all at 1 p.m. on this channel in the next video.